Now, there are reports coming out this morning about Wolverhampton Wanderers and their midfielder, João Gomes. He is a player that we have been linked to for about 2 years now, to be fair. Wolves are having a bloody nightmare, but just because you're having a nightmare doesn't mean that you're not a good signing. Of course, Manchester United famously signed Roy Keane from relegated Nottingham Forest in the early 90s, and he went on to become one of our greatest ever players. So just because a player's in a relegation team, you're only as weak as your weakest link, as we know at United, he may very well be a very good option for Manchester United. 24 years of age, but, and there is a big but, he is likely to be on the move if Wolves get relegated, and Wolves probably are going to get relegated. So you've got to be looking at those opportunities. It's funny, on my career mode, which is back tonight at 5 o'clock, Brighton got relegated, and instantly the live chat was like, you've got to go and pick up a couple of Brighton players. There's a good fullback there. There's Belieber. And why wouldn't you do that? So maybe that is an opportunity that Manchester United might look at if he fits the profile of what Ruben Amorim's looking for. The price is probably going to be good. Most clubs have relegation clauses. They can't really bargain because they can't really keep the player. So there's probably a good option there in João Gomes. The problem you've got is he is not Wharton, he is not Anderson, he is not Belieber, and he is not Stiller. And if we are to progress as a football club, bargains from Wolverhampton Wanderers are not going to help us progress. We've got to be going for players that Liverpool, that Chelsea want, if we want to be on that level. So I think this would only work if this was a deal we could do in January. Now, probably you could do this deal for around £40 million. But it's highly unlikely that Wolves are going to do this deal in January because they're in a relegation battle. Why would you sell a player you can't replace unless they're just going to completely give up? And Wolves are a selling club, and we have a good relationship with them. We bought Cunha from there, and they have sold out Nori. They've sold many players, Pedro Neto, loads of players. They could sell, of course they could. People are telling me to sign Minter. That's not real life. That's a computer game. This is real life. So look, João Gomes as a January option, that whets my appetite. I think that's an interesting option, but the reality is that that's probably not going to be able to be done. So I don't dismiss the player. I think in many ways, I agree with the theory that if you dropped in, just give me a random midfielder, a random Premier League. If you put Jordan Henderson into our midfield, we'd be better. That sounds crazy, but that's the hot take. If you put Jordan Henderson into Manchester United's midfield, we would be better. If you put James Garner from Everton into our midfield at the moment, we would be better. Just give me random midfielders that aren't that good that would improve our midfield. They would. So you put João Gomes into our midfield in January, I think we'd be a lot better because we're not good there. Casemiro doesn't have the legs. He has to move the ball quickly because he gets pressed. He can't be composed anymore because he's too slow. We've noticed that. Casemiro's doing okay, but he doesn't have the legs and he has to move the ball quickly, so we don't keep the ball. Bruno always moves the ball quickly and can't tackle. So our midfield is really redundant in many ways in relation to being able to control the game and support the defence and support the attack. It's sporadic. So you bring a João Gomes into there, we will be better. But my issue with it is, it only works if it's January. It only works if it's the immediate midfielder that we need in January. If this is the summer target, I'm like, there's so many players better than that. And it would be an improvement, but there are bigger improvements than that. So that's where I sit on it. Solid Blake says, what about Collier? Well, we had Collier and we let him go. I don't know. Robert says you're having a bit of a stretch there with Hendo, Mark. No. I genuinely don't think I am. I think that having observed the conversation we had in the summer when we spent a lot of time talking about this, and we'll probably talk about this a lot over the summer, over this international break, that midfield was a conversation topic of big debate throughout June, July and August before the season started. We need a midfielder. Constantly, we need a midfielder. Should we have sold Bruno? Can we get rid of Casemiro? We need a midfielder. We probably need 2 midfielders. That was a very valid conversation that we now have evidence for. The evidence is there. It's glaringly obvious in 4K. The midfield is not good enough. We were right. I think Amorim has to try and protect that. But I do not want Man United to sign Jordan Henderson. I do not want Manchester United to sign James Garner. I do not want us to go and sign, I don't know, whoever's playing in midfield for bloody Burnley. But what I'm saying is, if they are midfielders by trade, they probably would improve us a little bit because they are midfielders. And I think that's the positive side of things, is that it won't take much to improve Man United's football side if we bring in a couple of decent midfielders. The problem with João Gomes is that we will not be able to get him in January. And as Robas says, it would have to be in January, and then it's about how much he would be available for. Man United have got to buy a midfielder in January. They've got to bring a midfielder in January, should I say, and then another one in the summer. That's what they've got to do. If they go, and I think this is a big thing. If the club try and manipulate it, and Amorim tries to manipulate that we don't need one, then what have we been watching for the last 11 games? Like, we need two. We definitely need one. They can't sweep that under the carpet and just hope that, this sporadically inconsistent team that we've seen already this season is going to have enough quality to get us into the top 5. It might do, but it's a risk not worth taking. It really isn't.